Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and I have the pleasure of getting to talk about a film about Jason Statham fighting an 80-foot shark, The Meg, cause why? And I did wind up going to see this. It got some decent reviews. People thought that it was fun. I don't think this was like expected to be like the world's greatest film, but I'm gonna touch on this. But I felt like this film struggled with what it was wanting to be, honestly, because you have the Jawses of the world that are like serious, gritty, grounded monster type films that are full of suspense, and then you have stuff like Deep Blue Sea, which is campy as hell, over the top, and it's like then you can have fun that way. This film didn't dip itself enough in either of those two, but I kind of wish that it dipped it more into the crazy kookiness because I think that's where this film really fit in. Because realistically, how believable would like Jason Statham fighting an 80-foot shark be? But honestly, the biggest positive of this film was Jason Statham because his charisma is ridiculous, and the way he sold all the cheesy, goofy lines that he had. It was like watching a good old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie with all of his ridiculous one-liners. That was this movie with Jason Statham. And honestly, Rainn Wilson I thought was really funny and fit the tone of like the crazy weird movie. And Cliff Curtis I think did a really nice job in supporting as well. But honestly, this movie really thrives on the absurdity of the situation. And once the shark shows up and all the crazy stuff they wind up doing, I think that's what really sells this film. And not gonna lie, there's a couple of moments where I felt really tense, including particular shots of the camera like looking out on the ocean, dipping below the water, coming back up, looking for this fin or looking for some sign of the shark, and like finally it's coming back down, it's out of nowhere, and actually I was like, holy crap, that actually kind of got me a little bit. And I was surprised that some of those moments actually got to me, and I actually felt some tension and suspense. But they did actually work. And then there's tonal issues because it kept bouncing back between there's this really emotional moment with a character versus like there's a little dog running away from a shark. And honestly, the last probably 20 minutes of this movie is probably the tone that the rest of this movie should have been, because they just threw it out the window and was going all crazy on this. And one of my big things that I didn't like was Bing Bing Lee, who plays the female lead in this, felt really awkward with like this English language role. I've seen her in roles where she actually got to speak her native language, and I thought she did a really good job in those films, but she felt really awkward trying to deliver her lines in this film, and I felt like that took a lot away from her performance. And not gonna lie, the CGI wasn't the greatest for this. That shark looked really bad at moments, and I'm like, this is a sci-fi movie. This movie cost $130 million. Why does that shark look so bad? Honestly, and it's like they could have put a little bit more effort into that. And honestly, this movie lacks an emotional connection, and there's like this like weird character relationships and like who's in love with who, and like why do we care about certain characters and why are you here? Some of the supporting character like performances were kind of ugh. Ruby Rose wasn't the greatest in this film, and honestly, there's some really lackluster, straight like generic score, and the cinematography. Nothing felt really unique or interesting with the camera shots, except for maybe that one scene I mentioned before, dipping up and below the water. But honestly, a lot of it's just like point and shoot, point and shoot, and it's just like, as somebody who really likes cinematography and appreciates that, I'm just like, this is kind of boring. And the dialogue was really like Jason Statham sold his, but like within the first third of this movie where they're trying to deliver exposition and who these characters are, it felt so clunky and bad. And honestly, the first act, like the first 30 minutes of this movie was pretty boring. There's no shark, there's barely any Jason Statham, and it's just like, it's not what I thought this movie was about, honestly. And why was this movie almost 2 hours? It did not need to be. Honestly, if you like crazy, over-the-top monster type movies, and it's like, this is for you. And it might not even have enough of that craziness for you. And if you're really into suspenseful, tense monster things, there's some of that, but this movie really isn't for you. And that's the unfortunate middle ground I'm here. It's like, you can just enjoy it, I guess. It just feels a little long and takes a little bit to get into. but I would not highly recommend The Meg. And thank you for tuning in as always to your Wasteland Reviewer.